All right. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Honest Conversations with Rainbow Rach. I am Rachel, your host, and today I have such a special guest on, Isabella Badass, aka Isabella Marino. She is a CBT certified confidence coach. She is an intuitive badass and a service industry boss whose passion and mission is to inspire and teach others to reach their highest goals and dreams, and doing so by loving the fuck out of themselves. Welcome to the podcast, Isabella.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. And for those of you who don't know, Isabella and I had an epic conversation about 2 years ago on confidence and body love and boundaries. And we were like, you know what? We've had a lot of growth in the last 2 years. Let's do this again and come bring our lessons.
Yes, definitely. And I just this morning was realizing we've known each other for like a hot second, actually. Like a hot second. I'm like, oh, we've been both on like very separate journeys. But like witnessing each other, I think it's been like very, very cool. So I'm very excited to be back having like the same, but I feel like a very different conversation,
Yeah.
as well around the same topic.
Yeah, I feel like we've both just like grown and evolved so much. And you're like, I remember seeing you the first time like on screen, and I immediately like felt a connection to you. And so it's so cool that we've like nurtured that connection over these years. And like, I just feel like it's so easy to chat with you and have good conversation. So I was like, let's like revamp my podcast with this as the first episode. This is good.
I love it. Yeah, the conversation is always very fluid, and I feel like you're someone too who like I could not talk to for a very long time and then just pick up a conversation with you after, months or even like a year of not conversing. So that is always like a very special bond.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Like I said, she is an service industry boss, and I would love to like dive into this because I know we dove into this in our DMs a little bit ago, just sharing each of our experiences. And I know for me, like entrepreneurship can get lonely, and like I'm like very introverted, but I also need that extrovertedness where I'm like talking to people and I'm in a fast-paced environment. And I know that you relate to some of those things. So can you like talk about kind of your journey from going to like just entrepreneur? I know heavy in COVID, and then like how, like what led you to seek, management and service industry work.
Yes, this is like, especially in the past week, this has changed like so much. I'm like really, really excited to talk about this today because, like you said, like we've discussed that, like really just for me, the idea of there's like this idea you see like the what's the Amazon guy, Jeff Bezos, he's like, I was here in this tiny little shack by myself this many years ago, and there's like this whole like idea that you need to like kind of like put your head down and like I feel like isolate, and there's like this like pride in like the entrepreneur community, especially like on Instagram, where it's like put your head down, work really hard, keep to yourself, all of these things, where like that just doesn't feel good after a while, first of all. And like I got to a point where I was holding on to so much pride and just barely making it in terms of like my bills and stuff with my business at one point.
Right.
And I was just like, I'm going to suffer through this. I'm going to suffer through this. And I'm going to, again, like put my head down. And like, I got so depressed and so lonely. And after a while, I was like, why am I doing this to myself? There's this, like, for me, it felt like shame around like getting a job at first because I wasn't super successful yet. And like, I it was like, felt like a really tough pill to swallow to be like, you know what, I'm gonna get a job not only because like I want to be around people, but also because like I need more money than I have right now.
Yeah.
And like no one wants to be like, well, at least I didn't want to be like, I'm not making enough money for my business in order to like live a good life. Like I'm barely scraping by. And the irony of it all is that like I got a pretty shitty job that was like not paying me well, not in alignment with like anything I believed in, and like worked there for 6 months, which was a great lesson. Um, but like I didn't realize that I could take what I was doing in coaching and all the things that I had learned through my CBT certification, through being in Wealthy Soul Academy a billion times, from like just like being in community with other people, like that can be taken offline and
Mm.
out into the world in so many fucking different ways. And like that is something that is so underrated. And like I wasn't expecting that to happen. I wasn't expecting to feel like, oh my gosh, like me as a coach and all the things I've learned is made me a better person in every single way.
Mhm.
And it just enabled me to also really go after what I want. Like I worked this shitty job for a little bit, and then I had I was so fed up. I'll tell you the story. I was so fed up. I applied at like 15 places this one night. I was like, I need to get out of this toxic environment.
Yeah.
And the next day I got a call from a business that was like not open yet. I was like, is this a scam? I was so confused. And this person was like, I saw your resume, you should manage a place we're opening. He was like telling me about this concept. And I was like, I do not want to do that. I don't want to
Right.
do that. I was like, I'm really just looking for a barista job. Like, I have other things going on. He was like, you should just come in for an interview.
Yeah.
And all right, sure. And like, just from that was a little over a year ago. And now I'm in a space where like, I, the way my life is about to change is so big, I'm literally not allowed to talk about it right now.
Mm.
Like, it's so exciting and it's so fucking crazy that like I like am like almost shaking thinking about it for real, because I did this thing that entrepreneurs are supposed to do where
Right.
I was like, I'm gonna stop creating new content for Isabella Badass and I'm just going to stop creating new content, heavy quotes. I was literally posting all the time still, but
Yeah.
I wasn't like on a schedule. I wasn't like, you have to do this.
Right.
I was like, anything that comes to me, it's just going to be organic. And I probably posted more than I've ever posted, honestly, because I was just like, the pressure was off. I wasn't feeling
Yeah.
like I needed to create a new container. I wasn't feeling like I needed to like, hold space for people in big groups. I was like, I'm going to take a year. This was before, this was right when I first got this job a year ago. I was like, I'm going to take a year to, I was just pouring into Good Mornings with Isabella Badass and like really nothing else. I did a couple readings here and there, like literally nothing. And I, in the back of my head, there was that little thing. It was like, are you doing enough? Are you not doing enough? Are you giving up on your business? What are people going to, all of these things. And
Yeah.
it's like, I really got to this point where I was like happy in my job. My expertise was being used in a way that was like really, really exciting for me.
Yeah.
And who I was as an individual was like acknowledged. And I'm using this word in a positive way, and exploited in a way where I was like, I'm obsessed. Like, you see my potential and you see the passion I have for like the certain things I'm doing right now with this business, that like it's such a beautiful thing. And I would have really missed so many opportunities if I would have just been in this space of like, I need to fucking keep my head down and do this. And the irony of all of this is that right now, especially in the past 2 months, I've released so much resistance around how much money I can actually make, because crazy things are happening right now. Like, I'm about to move in 2 months, and my life, like, it's gonna be like everything is about to be fucking different, bro. Like, it's fucking insane. And I would have missed all of that for
Yeah.
what?
I think I remember too when you moved into the place you're in now, you like didn't think that even where you're at now was possible. So it's cool that you're like leapfrogging yourself again and like going into a new level, all because you were like, I'm not happy right now. And even though this like inner critic in me is saying I shouldn't be doing this, and all these other people online are telling me this, like I'm going for this thing that just feels good, and like everything is working out. And I know you said too that the whole idea that this pressure is off, like sometimes in our businesses, whenever we are, and even just if you're not an entrepreneur and the financial stability isn't there in your life, you are completely in flight or flight mode. Your nervous system is not regulated and you can't like create from that place. It's not, it doesn't feel good. And you're doing it out of a, I need to survive. I need to make this. I need to do this. And someone please buy my course so I can live versus
It's
like good. And now I get to create the things that I just want to create because I am financially supported and I don't have to worry about where my next like client or person enrolling in a course or whatever is coming from.
dude, it's such a valid point because I think there's this whole like quit your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And that's, do what you want to do. But I'm like, man, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And there are a million ways to do things. I was talking on my story this morning on Instagram, like, we all come from completely different places in life. And
Mhm.
so being like, this is what you need to do, and this is exactly how you should do it in order to be successful, like, will never make sense to me because, like, who are you as an individual? Like, what are you experiencing? Where is your mind around this? Like,
Right.
my mind was not in the space to, like, I mean, perfectly fucking honest, my mind was not in the space to like hold myself up while I was scraping by on breadcrumbs. Like, there were
Right.
straight up days where I was like not eating food and I was like, I need to eat fucking food to
Yeah.
live. This
Yeah.
dumb, like,
Yeah.
not okay. Um, and there's so much. It's like the fear of judgment when you're getting a job, the fear of like, because especially when we show up online, and a lot of us started showing up more like during the pandemic when we had all this time, when like we were like in a situation to like maybe invest more money. Like, I was balling out on unemployment during the pandemic. That was
Same.
insane.
Same.
uh and I loved it, don't get me wrong, like that was legit. But um you know the world is different now.
Hmm.
It just straight up is. And the way we are now is so much different than we were before. And that's something, ooh, that makes me want to fucking cry. Like, who I was before the world shut down and we like rebirthed ourselves.
Right.
You birthed a human, like, kind of a big deal. Um, like, I thought that I was going to go back into the working world as well and have the same perspective,
Hmm.
just be like, I need to again put my head down and like get this shit done. And I found myself in a space where I was like, wow, I'm actually like appreciated, I'm considered, um I'm able to like do all of these things that most people with degrees aren't even able to like do. Like, this is like, and it's because I gained confidence and I've asked for what I wanted and I've put myself in the position where like I am the expert on these things because like I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Right.
And that, I don't think I would have honestly like been able to do all that before becoming a coach, before getting coached a lot, before like breaking everything down I knew about, dude, like, beauty and who I am and how I need to look to be acceptable, and not only like acceptable but really really taken seriously as a professional person.
Yeah.
Like, it goes deep as fuck, to be honest.
It does. And like that's part of the beauty of like you said in COVID, we didn't have a choice but to be indoors and locked in our houses. And the online world felt so expansive and like, oh my God, I can still connect to the whole world, even though everything is shut down. And I think after, at least in my opinion and perspective, after like a couple years of that, I was like, I'm craving this like in-person community. Online is amazing and I love that I can like pick up the phone and call people that I've like connected with through Instagram, but there's also something about being in person with people.
Mm.
Like even when I was at my just receptionist job, like the most recent job at a tax firm, so it's come to an end now, but um I just loved being around people. We were talking about taxes, like it was an all women office too, which is like very rare. I had like a view of the mountains, and I was like, wow, I didn't know that I could love this so much because of that narrative of like, you need to quit your 9 to 5. You need to like, not even, I was so gung ho on like, I want to support my spouse. I want to have 25K months. And for me, I know I got like so wrapped up into this like online world because I was living there
Yeah.
versus like, oh, I can live in my real world. And it just made me so much happier than just living online all the time.
That is such an important, like, are we thinking about our happiness really truly when we're like building these things? Because I know a lot of people, and like I was in this position at different points where I was like, I feel like I'm building something to like stay afloat. And like, I don't want to be ever be building a like such a coaching is so fucking personal. And
Mhm.
like, I don't ever want to be building a business around coaching that isn't about the individual, period. You know what I'm saying? Like, so putting ourselves in these positions, whether you're a coach or just like an entrepreneur of any kind, like where, like you said, you feel like you're like almost like begging people so you can, like, it's like people aren't like they're not paying your bills.
Right.
Right? Like you're maybe your clients are paying your bills, but like these people aren't just to pay your bills. Like this is a personal thing. And I think that's where a lot of people really get like out of integrity too, where it's like, bruh, like stop trying to, I mean, we all know like the cold messaging, the whole like this and then that, where it's like, no one's gonna trust you. You don't fucking trust yourself. This
Mm-hmm.
is crazy. And man, I'm like, you don't have to live there. And I just like want anyone who is listening to this to just know that like there is absolutely no shame in like working a regular job and building something. Even if you're building something is taking 15 minutes out of the month to record one podcast or like to write one blog, like whatever it is, it's just like there's no fucking rush.
Yeah.
And it's there's all this pressure, like, to the narratives of like 10K months, this many K months, and doing this, where it's like, where are you actually going to be happy? Like, what actually matters to you? And like, there's just no amount of like degrading sacrifice that I'm personally willing to make just to like build a business. Like, it's not about that to me. And like, that takes away from the beauty of anything good I could get from building a business, including like the relationship aspect.
Yeah. And I think there's like this, I know it stopped me from getting a job for a while. And it sounds like it was like what was stopping you too is like, you feel like, but if I get a job, then that means I failed.
Yeah.
Kind of not even like reframing that in our mind, but just being like, that's not fucking true, bro.
Dude, it's not true. Literally, okay, last week on my podcast, I was talking about literally fucking that because my first like um massively paid for coach who like broke my brain, not a good experience, had me go through these certain exercises, and one of the exercises was like, what's your biggest fear? And I went deep into I like, bro, it was so, here's the deal, like shadows, acknowledge them. I love me a shadow, but I'm like, what psychologically the thing, it like is still with me, so I know that it's like it was not a good experience. But what I went deep into was like, it was my biggest fear around my business was failing and having to get a job and everyone seeing that.
Yeah.
This was in, I'm like, when did this is probably like 2018 or 2019.
Mm,
And this was before I like quit my job, or not quit my job, I got laid off. But I
right.
was like, it's like me thinking in the future, like if I'm like having what is my biggest fear within my business if this were to happen? And I just remember like, oh my God, the feeling around just like what that would feel like if that happened. And of course, everyone, when I got a job around me, was extremely supportive and kind and was like, I'm happy you're making more money and you're more comfortable. There was no one, no one was, there was no big issue. I'm like, this is not a thing. What other people thought of me on the internet, who's to say? I literally do not give a fuck. But like, it's so funny that I had like this perception of like you said, like that being a failure. And it's like, how is taking care of yourself in any capacity a failure? Like, how is doing what you need to do for yourself a failure?
Yeah.
So it's just so fucking destructive. And when you think about it, it's so fucking, this is kind of backwards. Hey, this is kind of backwards, but like it is rooted in, even that part of entrepreneurship is rooted in capitalism. The like, you need to fucking like slap your head against the entrepreneur wall until you get it right. Instead of really just taking care of yourself by any means possible. Like, I think people don't realize they have so many choices.
Yeah, well, and I think a part of that is because, sorry, this is ruining our audio. I think a lot of that is like people are influenced by this like 10K months, 25K months, and they're seeing that as the only measure of success is the money that you're making versus, I saw this quote and I reshared it on my Instagram and it said, true success is a calm nervous system. And that hit me so deep. Like, that is, yeah, that's exactly what I need in my life, is just a calm nervous system.
Yeah. Period.
Yeah.
Period. I'm like, I can like operating in that state and that like fight or flight, especially when you're just like, oh, there's so many other factors in life, I think, that people forget besides their business.
Right.
Especially when we're in that mode. And it's like, there's life offline. There's life offline. There's, first of all, in many ways, like you can coach in person, but also I just, and this is very like manifesting generator of me. So just like, I'm like, you can do everything. Not everyone wants to do everything. So like, that is totally understandable. And I respect that as well. But it's just so limiting to think that like, you can't have what you want because you're so fucking stubborn that you're not willing to admit where you're at.
Right.
Which is like, man, just be honest with yourself. Sometimes I'm a very prideful person. It's hard. Like, it is hard.
Yeah, well, and that like whole, I'm gonna keep my head down, I'm gonna grind, it's gonna work, versus like, let me tell myself the truth, even if it might be a little bit uncomfortable, and like, what do I actually want? And I know for me, like the thing at the top of my list was like financial stability. And it's like, I can force financial stability in my business. So if I need to like get this job to have that sense of safety, then I'm going to do that. And I also want to say to people too, like, you don't have to get a 9 to 5. Like, I worked 12 hours a week and that was perfect for me. I remember telling my husband, like, I'm just so happy. Like, I didn't know I could be so happy, like working for, somebody else. And like, I just thought, oh, I had to just do my business. And I was looking through old journals. And like 2 years ago, I had written down, I just want to work for the company I was working at currently. This is like right before I got laid off in the pandemic. And I was like, I just want to work for them like 10 hours a week. I still want to like go have a place of business, like place of work that's away from home. I'm getting out of the house, getting away from like, particularly my role as a mom, because that's like a big thing for me, is just like, and something that makes me feel free is like having that identity outside of being a mom.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and then I'll work on my business for, X amount of hours, and then I'll just be free to do whatever I want in the day. I can go on a hike at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, or I can like go, do yoga or go play with my kids, but having that like sense of freedom is also like on my list of what makes me feel successful.
I absolutely agree. I first want to speak to you were talking about like working for someone else. How much this might be me personally weigh in on this, how much of a fucking relief it felt to like I am in charge of a lot of things at my work, but there are people above me. It
Mm-hmm.
is relief for
Right.
me to not be in charge of every aspect of every single thing when you're running your own business and you get into a space where you just got to clock in and do your job. Whoa, that's crazy. Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, so good. And also the schedule thing. I'm like, y'all ask for the schedule you want. If
Mhm.
they say no, go somewhere else and find it. I
Literally.
currently work 3 days a week at my job, and I work really long days. Um, and then I have meetings on Tuesdays. I can show up virtually or in person. It's totally up to me. If I want to get paid, I go there in person. If I don't, I just zoom in.
Yeah.
Um, and I make plenty of money to live comfortably and pay off my debt. I have basically 4 days off a week where I can play, I can work on my business, I can do whatever. It's literally so legit. I'm gonna start working a lot more towards the end of the year, but doing something I'm so excited about that has it's just like it's gonna be great. I'm like, it's something it's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah.
Um,
In that place, like when you're going to work for someone else and you have that fun, I think that's like the most important thing. You don't have to get a job that is like, oh, that sounds terrible. I don't want to do this. Like there is some opportunity out there that is perfect for you. And like you're saying, the hours, like I worked 4 to 7 p.m. when my husband was home. And so we didn't have to pay for a babysitter. That was like the biggest thing. I was like, I'm not like basically earning nothing just so I can like have a babysitter here.
mhm.
I think that's a possibility for people. And I think it's funny, like the differences, and this might be, because I have kids and you have the freedom of like, you're not like wiping people's asses
Yeah,
24/7.
very
But
different, very different.
so like the management aspect, I think is because I used to love being in management, but after I had kids, I was like, I got to manage my home. I
Bro, you're
can't
always in
be
management.
manager at work. Right. And so for me, like being the receptionist was so much fun. And I would like come to my boss like as a director of operations, even though I'm like in a receptionist role and like give my solutions and ideas and then be like, oh, and la di da, let me go answer the phone. Hello, how can I help you? And it was so nice to just like not even, and I don't even see it as like being at the bottom of the totem pole. It's just
No,
having so little responsibility. And then if I want to like give them more than I could, and it was fun to like be acknowledged for, wow, that's a really good idea. And like, wow, I've been thinking about this all day, how to like find the solution. And you just like brought it to me in your first 5 minutes here at work. And it really can be fun and something that lights you up.
100%. And I think probably a lot of the people who listen to your podcast too, like we are like intelligent people and experts in small areas. And I think there's so many things that we forget we're really good at.
Right.
Um, Especially people who have done any part of business building, even if it's just like curating a group and running it on Facebook, even
Mhm.
if it's just that, like there's so many skills that you can apply literally anywhere and everywhere. And that's something that like in a position that you were in, like that is so much fun
Right.
to be to apply those skills. And like it's that is the coach in you too, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like you're like I because you there's this thing in us that I feel like at least it's in me where I'm like if I can help you, I'm going to let you know and I'm going to tell you, and hopefully this makes the system better and hopefully this is going to improve everything. Like
Yep.
that's just exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, and it actually like gave me so much more clarity in who I am in like as Rainbow Rage as I show up in real life, like how I show up online. Like people, I remember one girl in particular was so like anxiety ridden, and I would like do things with her every day of not even like exercises, but just being like, reminding her like, hey, you can like take a break and like at during the sunset every day, because it's like during the thick of tax season everyone is so stressed out, people are not taking care of themselves, people are working 12-hour days.
Ugh.
I was not having to do because I was a
Yeah,
receptionist, so I could just
like
kind of
I'm chilling.
and I would be like, sunset break, everyone take a look at the sunset, it's good for your health. And I'd be like, everyone chug your water. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is me. And
Yeah.
it just reminded me who I am when I was coming out of this space of like full rebirth after having this one and being like, who the fuck am I now? Like, I don't know who I am. And it's been, the last 2 years just relearning myself. And it helped me so much. Like I said, just gain clarity of who I am and like what I truly help people with. And like,
Mm.
I've just like had this thing from being in a young age and just looking at people that are like not taking breaks, which I used to do this when I was in management. I would like not go to the restroom because I had to finish the task I was on first. And that's like
Yeah. Ugh,
my,
worst.
yeah, it's like what led to my first course, Heal Your Shit. I was like, I have to tell people like what I've learned. And so it's cool, like just being reminded of that. Cause for a while I was like, I just don't have passion in my business anymore. And it really like relit my fire, and my like knowing of myself.
Dude, it's so good. And it's so real. Like being present in life is so important. And once I feel like once you get to the point where you're really not present in life because of what's happening in your business or how much energy you're putting into it, it's like that for me was a big like I'm like I am not happy. I'm
Mhm.
actually sad. And like something's got to give because this is not the life I was envisioning. Like, I was like, fuck. And I think the ability to like navigate that feeling too of before like when you're getting into a new job or a new space, whether it's just like getting into a new career in general or getting a job because your side hustle isn't making you enough money or like whatever it is, like just I feel like there's that like, oh, you're like that pressure of like doing it. And then once you're finally out there, it's like you got to be brave
Right.
and be brave enough to like be okay with everyone misunderstanding or the people that like I know a lot of us do have like people in our community that look up to us and
Mhm.
that feels like pressure and that feels like we can't be human beings because of that and like we have to be human beings because of that. Like that's even more of a reason to be like, hey, this is what I went through and this is the reality of it. And like, I'm a human being too. Like, no one's perfect. And I just think there's so much power in that,
Yeah,
being
that
like, I don't
vulnerability.
need to live up to anything.
Right. And I think it does give other people like permission to also realize that within themselves. Like, and for me, I think a lot of it, maybe the first 8 months, 6 months of his life, like I would just wake up, turn on the TV and like numb out with TV. Or I'd be like TV on, scrolling Instagram, scrolling TikTok, like whatever, just numb. Like, and we think that, oh, we only numb with like drugs or alcohol or whatever. It's like, no, you can numb with technology too. And so it takes
Yeah.
taking a step back or just being aware of that and being like, oh, my screen time report said I'm on my phone an average of 9 hours a day. Like, is that what I want to be doing with my time? Or do I like want to live in like the real world?
Mm-hmm. And I think for thinking about this last night, it's funny because I caught myself in like a loop of
Mm-hmm.
me just like scrolling and numbing myself out from something very specific last night. And I was like thinking about how to set my phone in this a proper space. Hold on here. We can do this. Stay. Um Thinking about how honestly like it can be very frightening, intimidating to take that break, to take that breath, to take that beat, because sometimes we're like, what's inside there?
Right.
What's inside there? Last night I was like so busy, and I knew that there was something specific I wasn't dealing with. So I was just like, honestly, stop, turn all your shit off, like have a moment, floodgates, tears, all the things. I was like, I needed this. I needed this so, so bad. But like, no, not many of us are like, I really want to cry and break down at this moment. And like, why would you be? But man, there's a lot of magic in the tears. I really think that. And like, just, that radical honesty with yourself. I don't feel good saying shit out loud. I was
Right.
coaching someone through this last night, not at the same time, at a different time. But just being like, dude, when you don't feel good, say it out loud.
Mm,
Don't hold that shit in. For what? So you
yeah.
can continue to scroll, like say it out loud. How does that feel? Probably terrible. That's okay. Feel it out.
Yeah. And like sometimes it's okay to, like, I know for me, it takes me like days, if not a week, of being in this like numbing out with scrolling or with Netflix or whatever, to then be like, oh, what am I doing? And then be like, okay, I had my time, like I gave myself space to like be safe, because that is a form of like trying to find safety. Like if your nervous system, like you have the tools to handle it. And that's also a time when I think like particularly coaches are always like, you need to hire a coach if you're this and this. It's like, no, sometimes you just got to hire a therapist. You got to find a psych. You got to like find a prescription of medication that is good for you, or like some supplements, or changing your diet, or like getting outside every day. Like it's, I don't know. I don't love that in the industry of like, you just need to find a coach and you'll be better. It's like, it's coaches
Coach
are,
is not a solution for everything.
yeah.
Not,
Yeah.
it can be a solution for a lot of things. And it's funny we say this because like we obviously are coaches, but I'm also someone who, I love my therapist and I go to therapy. I also understand like if I don't get vitamin D, I'm really not gonna fucking feel good. Like those, there's so much more. There's so much more. Medication, like all of these things are so, so valid, and it's very easy to get lost in the sauce of one thing, whether it's like the spiritual bypassing or your coach is a solution to everything. Like that's just not, it's just not healthy.
Yeah. And I think like filtering the opinions of people online too. Like you don't have to be following everyone. And even if it hurts someone's feelings, like you're allowed to unfollow people. Even if there's someone you've known like your whole life, if you really feel some type of way about it, there is a mute function, You can like do that on all the social media platforms. It's just mute someone so you don't have to deal with like the repercussions of, well, you unfollowed me and and
Mm-hmm.
actually, I had that come up with like a friend of mine from like middle school, high school, college. I actually was a roommate with her, and she was like, "Oh, I saw you like unfollowed me." And I was just super honest. I was like, "Bro, honestly, like this was when I had my first baby, and I was like, I am 24 and I'm a mom, and I am so sad that I don't go out anymore, and I'm like have this whole new life. Like I can't watch you go out every weekend and I'm like stuck at home with my baby. It makes me so sad." And she was like,
Yeah.
I'm so fucking sorry. And I was like, no, it's cool. But like now it's not about you. It's just like, I got to do what I need to do for my own mental health. So like if someone is like, even it's your friend popping up on your feed and it makes you feel some type of way until you're better, unfollow, unmute or mute. Like it's okay.
That is I'm like, that is so real of you to send that message too. Like, because I think a lot of people would be like, I mean, I don't know your relationship with this person for sure. Give me a little background, but just, being that honest is such a good, like, such a fucking beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Cause I'm just gonna share this. I've like never shared this ever with anyone. So here we go. I have this weird feeling in my body when I unfollow people, and I make it a point to unfollow people all the time because I'm a serial follower. Like I just and I'm like, I don't. Who are you? I don't want to be looking at.
They show up on your feed. Who? When did I follow you?
After too many mezcal Manhattans, I'm like following all these brands that I like. fucking I always get this funky little feeling when I go to unfollow someone who I know is like a good person but is triggering me. And
Right.
I'm like, that is so whack. And it's something that I've started to like practice doing because I'm very much like, if this makes me uncomfortable, I need to do it more. And that's who I am. But it's also like I'm it's rough, but I'm like, we're just gonna keep doing it. We're just gonna keep doing it. But I was like thinking about, I'm like, what is that? Like, what is that little? And I'm like, oh my God. First of all, no one's watching who I'm following and not following for the most part. And I was like, this is about me. This isn't about how someone else would feel. It was like one of the last tears of like this deep people pleasing moment, right? Where I was just like, I wouldn't want this for person to feel like, and I'm like, first of all, I can't make anyone feel any way. I always have to come back to that. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm leading with integrity and kindness. This is all I can do. This is all I can do. Too funny. That little twinge. It's real. I'm like, oh, what is that?
Yeah, and it's like that people pleasing aspect too. Um like I'm a manifestor in human design, and there's so much like you need to decondition this piece of the people pleaser, and I'm like, doesn't everyone, like, don't most people, especially particularly women, like
Mm-hmm.
have this like need to please people? And I think for boys they have it with their dads, or at least I see that like with my oldest and his dad's relationship. But all of us have this like need to please people, and I think part of it is just like noticing it with age and deciding like this is whack, I'm not doing this anymore, because I'm abandoning my own sense of self when I am putting other people's, how they view me, above how I am taking care of myself. And I know
Right.
I, like, particularly in-laws, like, um and even with my own parents, like I was just in Mexico celebrating my 30th birthday with my family, and I was like, you know what, I'm just like gonna be fully my damn self. Like I'm just not gonna like, I feel like with my mom I can be like a weird bitch whatever, and then like with my dad and my stepmom, who are both like, not that their color has anything to do with this, but they're both like white, very neurotypical, very like, you go to college, you get a job. And so I when I'm around them, I have this pressure of like, I need to be like a good little girl, and I need to like follow their rules. And turning 30 has really done something to me of just being like, no, I'm gonna say my weird things. Like I'm gonna be like, oh, grandpa's with us right now. And it's actually like so much more accepted than I thought. A lot of the time with our people pleasing, we're sitting there like putting these narratives into our mind of like, oh, well, they're not going to accept me, they'll think I'm weird, they're going to think I'm annoying, they're not going to like me. And it's like, when we just get over that hump, which, like you said, you need bravery, you need courage, and it's not comfortable to have bravery or courage, but it is like,
Worth it.
yeah, exactly.
It's so worth it. It's so worth it just to be yourself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
wonderful things that have happened in my life once I just like literally was like, I cannot spend all this time trying to, really what it is like trying to control other people's perceptions of us, right? And I'm someone who like, I, from the outside looking in, it may look like I am this like, how do I want to explain that? I have a control freak inside of me, and she's big, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But it comes out in ways where I'm in people pleasing, and things like that. And like, that's definitely like people pleasing is a trauma response for
Yeah.
sure, as we know. But man, we're missing out on so much. Like, all of fucking humanity is missing out on so much just by like trying to be something else to fit a certain mold, whether it's like a good wife, a good mother, a good employee, a good boss. Like, what are all of those are made up. These ideas that you have around them made up.
Mm-hmm. I,
And
I
I'm
like,
just, wow, I didn't realize how much. when like I wish I could tell my like 18-year-old self this. I'm like, if you are just yourself, if you are just your weird, crass, like vegan ass, goth, emo, bitchy, like just be yourself. Just be your fucking self.
Yeah.
It's man, ugh,
It
it's
contributes to
not
your happiness.
anything.
Yeah. And that like I recently went to a show at Red Rocks and like it was fucking cold and I am at the point in life where I'm like I'm not dressing cute. Like I am
100%.
comfort and warmth over like being like whatever dressing in like my like cute, concert girly clothes. And so I'm like in my just look like a mom, honestly, just like straight mom get up. And there are these girls like around the same age as me, a little younger. And I could like feel them judging me, like, why is she at like an EDM show? What does she like know? Or that's at least my perception of it. Was that
Mhm.
probably the truth? Probably not. And in my head, I was like, I can like dress. I don't have to dress like hippy dippy and whatever when I go to Red Rocks to like be accepted by people. Like I can literally just dress how I want to dress and still be that like I don't girl that can get the fuck down. I like in my head to these girls, I'm like, oh, you have no idea. I can actually like get the fuck down.
Yeah. You're like, you don't, you never seen this.
Yeah. And it's like, it was just a moment of like, damn, I'm proud of myself for how much I've grown because back in the day, I would have like not dared to go to like a Base Nectar show or something without like my candy kid lights and like my tutu and like my boots and like look the part. And now I'm like, oh, I actually don't have to look the part at all. I can just wear what I want to wear and be who, like you're saying, be your actual full self. And it's okay. Like all you have to do is be good with who you are. Like, and I think that comes with knowing yourself too. Part of it comes with age, part of it comes with this like awareness of when we are numbing out and actually just being like, yo, I'm just gonna like spend time with myself and get to know myself.
That has been really powerful for me too. Just like I personally have been single for 5 years, I think. Like that
Minute.
a long
Yeah.
ass time, bro. And um that's not something I ever thought was even possible for me. Didn't plan on it. I've been in like 2 4 year relationships, which seems like a long time for me. I don't know. All that to just say, like, I have learned so much being by myself. And I don't think everyone has to be single for 5 years. It's a little dramatic, but like, man, taking time for yourself, whether you're in a relationship or not, you preach this all the time. And you're someone who like reminds your fucking page reminds me to do this on the frequent, where it's just like, okay, no, like leave the dishes, chill out, take a deep breath, go touch some grass,
Yeah.
like slow down,
Mhm.
chill
I
out.
I was going to ask you about this too, so I'm glad you said dishes because I know you like said that I remind you of these things, and I think sometimes like in mom community, mom culture, we think that we're the only ones that get wrapped up in the housework, and it's like everyone has housework. Everyone can be prioritizing dishes and cleaning and remodeling over their own health, like over their mental health, their physical health, just their well-being.
That's so valid. I live in a 220 square foot apartment and I sneeze and it gets messy. You know what I'm saying? Like I put down one thing and I'm like, the place is a disaster.
Yeah.
It's so small. And I don't have a lot of things because they don't fit in here, but I'm also so it's a constant thing for me, especially with just like the way like, 88, I set one thing down and I don't I literally, the true story. I had ordered toilet paper on Instacart because I was running out and I had set it in front of my door. I forgot I ordered it. I stepped over this toilet paper probably 25 times, didn't see it there, didn't know it was there, reordered at midnight, toilet paper on Instacart because I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm out of toilet paper. Freaking out. Some homeless person stole it from outside my apartment when I was getting it delivered. Only for me to be, I was all pissed off, come back into my apartment and like see this toilet paper that had been there for, 4 days. I'm like, oh God, little things where I'm just like this. And it's because I'm like, the place was a mess. I
Yeah.
was like busy during my work weekend. I don't clean at all. I'm at work like with the commute. It's like a 12 hours. I work
Yeah.
kind of far away and I'm like, girl, not cleaning, not cooking. It gets really overwhelming. And like, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm going to make time for what's important to me in this moment. Like you say, like whether it's something for me, taking a shower, making sure I'm nourishing myself enough. And,
Right.
sometimes it is cleaning the place up, but
Right.
not always. And like, that's okay too. And there is, oh, don't get me wrong. Like when my apartment's clean, I feel like a bad bitch. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm like, absolutely, absolutely, yes. But there's also something to be said for being able to sit in, and this is like a metaphor for fucking life, to be able to like sit in a mild amount of chaos or disarray and be able to just come back to yourself. Like that in itself is a powerful practice.
Right. And it is such a practice that takes like, for me, it's taken years of practice. I mean, I preach it and I still get lost in that. And I think one thing that's like helped me too in being okay with the chaos is like having a structure of like, okay, every other day, like I'm, gonna do one thing or like just have it, it can be whatever the schedule you want to be on. But for me, just having like a structure to it of like this day is laundry day, this day I do dishes, and like it just gives you the space to be okay with the chaos. It's
That
like
is
I know my
really,
cleaning's coming up, so I'm good in this.
that's such a good point too. I didn't start doing that until very recently. My older sister is type A extraordinaire, and she is like list maker, meal plan, all of these. And she's an inspiration to me. I won't lie. I am not her. But I started just, this is something as simple as designating like Friday's laundry day.
Mm-hmm.
Friday's laundry day. If for some reason I do it earlier in the week, fantastic. But does that happen? It's happened once. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But it's like that's the day it's getting done. It's something so tiny, but is so freeing. And there are other little things that, I'm like slowly implementing. It's not consistent, but I'm like, the fact that I know what day of the week I'm doing my laundry.
Yeah.
Why did I delay that? I didn't even know what it was like gonna do for me. I think having structure that feels freeing. I
Right.
think like the perception that I have always had of structure, especially because of like the way in which I was raised, was always very just like militant, to be honest.
Right.
And that perception like made it so, before I broke down what that meant to me, I was in this stage of like, structure is boxing me in. It's not going to help my life. It's restrictive. And
That's
just something so small as like making a decision to have a tiny bit of organization. Even if I'm like planning one meal a week, even that, I'm like, oof, I know what I'm going to eat on Tuesday. Hell yeah.
yeah, that's been my like I on Tuesdays is usually like meal prep day, and not even meal prep. I just try it out. Like I look in the pantry, look in the fridge, look in my cupboard, like, oh, what can I make with like what I have? And then that also contributes to like my feeling of financial stability because usually
Yes.
I can't my full ass pantry and be like, I have nothing to eat. What am I gonna eat? And then when I don't have that plan, I'm like, let me just go pick up some fast food real quick because that's just easier. Or I'm like craving,
Yeah.
let's go eat that. So that's been like something that's so helpful. And then I just, yeah, like it doesn't a structure actually, I think as like um not neurotypical people and like especially, I don't have ADHD, but I know like you've aligned with that. And like, I know a lot of people do. And the narrative from what I feel like is online is very, well, you're just fucked. You just can't do anything about it. You're just going to be disorganized your whole life. It's like,
Mhm.
even if you're not neurotypical, you actually can like have some itty bitty structures that work for you. You just have to trial and error until you see what feels good. And
It's very true. And that's another aspect for me personally where I just like had a lot of pride.
mhm.
And it's a very, I'm like, I didn't think about it. That's a very interesting thing to have pride around. But like, man, oh, so good to have a little structure. I feel like we could make a great little something about just like, ugh, I'm like just structure and ease, because there's this whole like, you know, the masculine and the feminine vibe. Um, I don't necessarily resonate with those words anymore, but I definitely appreciate the values behind them. And um the fact that like structure, I think, is viewed so much as like this masculine energy, whereas like there would not be any masculine energy if the feminine didn't, like the feminine is the structure, literally the structure, the infrastructure, if you fucking will, like of life. I just think that's, I don't know, something kind of interesting. Like everything is both, and we can find so much freedom in the things that, for me, like the perception of masculine has always been very like boxed in, and I just think that that perspective doesn't necessarily serve all of us very well.
And the whole, it's beat into our minds, especially on like spiritual TikTok and, Instagram,
Mm.
like, well, toxic masculinity and like gives masculinity a bad rap when it's actually, when it's in balance, it's actually, it's necessary. We need both of these like energies. And a friend of mine said to me when I was like, when she was kind of helping me like figure out what structure would be good for me, she's like, the structure is what allows me to flow, because I'm not sitting there thinking about, I have to do dishes, I gotta do laundry, I gotta make my bed, I gotta brush my teeth. It's like there is a structure and I know it's gonna happen and get done. So like in this moment, I can rest because I know that's gonna be taken care of. And it's like almost just fostering this sense of like safety within ourselves. Structure is safety for me.
Mm.
And
Absolutely. Did you have, I have this question. Did you have like, when you were younger, did you feel like, I'm talking like very early 20s, maybe late teens, what was your view of structure? Like, what was that, something that you even thought about? Did it cross your mind? Did it seem like restrictive or constricting in any way?
I had like I've actually rehashed this so many times in therapy because it's like been such something I have had to work on, of being like, I don't like structure. And like, even just finding like a schedule for therapy, I've been like, it took me,
Oh my God, don't even look at me. I same.
yeah. And so we like, just talking through it, I realized when I was in gymnastics, when I was younger, like middle school, elementary school. Oh, are you awake now? Oh, you would like a blueberry? And I had to go to gymnastics like Tuesday, Thursday for like 3 or 4 hours a night. And I remember coming home from school a lot and being like, oh, I don't want to go. And then I really did not do like organized sports after that. It felt very like, I don't want to be at the same place, same time every day. No, like I'm not doing.
Mhm.
And then as I was in college and had I'm working towards a biology degree and a chemistry minor and a microbiology minor. And I'm also doing um, my yoga certification at the same time.
All at the same time?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, that's intense.
Which it was intense, but in that at that time, I like structured every single bit of my day. It would be like 2 to 3 o'clock, like physics homework, 3 to 4 o'clock, organic chemistry homework, like 4 to 5, do yoga. And I was successful. And so it made me think like, oh, I need to get back to that structure. And then now as I've like grown older, it's become more of this like a structure that is not rigid, that's more fluid, that I can flow with. Um, but that, and that also the very structuredness of like my schedule also led me to disordered eating, because then I was scheduling every single thing I was eating. I can recall like I used to get these like littler apples, so it was like 60 calories. So I would eat like an apple for breakfast, 60 calories. I would have half of a protein bar, which was like I think 80 calories. And then like my splurge at like 4 o'clock would be a Subway sandwich that was 400 calories. Like I recall it
Oh
so,
my god.
so regimented. And I think that's like kind of a danger if it, unless you're like super type A, I just don't think that there's a reason to be that um structured, because then it can lead to all of your areas being so heavily controlled, and then it feels like this false sense of control where you're trying to control every little thing to meet whatever goal you're trying to meet.
Totally. And it's like, where is there room for life in that? You
Yeah.
know, my, not to spill too many guts, but my sister is someone who, the type A sister, has come to a place where like she is like, she's so cool. I really do look up to her so much. Um, where she is just chilled out because she's like, I want to do more life. She's like, I really want to do more life. And it's, you know, she's done a lot of inner work and I applaud her immensely for that. Um, but it's like, it's so true, like that sense of control. It's something that I think a lot of us, especially, I feel like especially as like female identifying people, really resonate with, because a lot of things, you know, feel out of our control, and it's definitely down to the individual, but I feel that deeply, that like sense of control for me at a certain stage of my life was like all I felt like I had.
Mm-hmm.
um and yeah, I think growing older, just in general, I don't remember who I was talking to about this recently, is one of my favorite things. It's one of my favorite fucking things to grow older. I am just like, man, the journey of becoming, and also I think it's important to say that there are different structures for like every season of our lives, and that's pretty cool too. Like it doesn't have to stay the same.
Yeah.
And that can be, I mean, that can be fun too. I'm all about having fun. It's all I want to do. I'm very much like, man, I could die tomorrow vibes, especially lately. I'm like, I've lost some people in the past couple years. I'm like, girl, I could die tomorrow. I need to have some fun. I need to have a good life. And that's what I'm here for, period.
Yeah, it comes back to like defining what success is for you and what that looks like, and not um forming your idea of success around what other people are telling you, particularly people that are like trying to sell you something and
Oh my
they're
God, literally, that circles back to exactly what we were talking about in the beginning of this. That's too funny, but too true.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I
What?
know we had more topics we wanted to get to, and I know we've talked about just being guests on each other's podcasts, so I think I'll have to come on yours, or
Yeah,
we'll do.
you're gonna have to come on mine now, girl.
Yeah, because I know we wanted to get to like talking about being mixed and like being white passing. We touched a little bit on like the body love thing, but we really
We barely
deep and like
skimmed.
the
We got into some good stuff though.
no, I love this. I love this so much. And will you let people know where they can find you on the interwebs and in person too?
Yes. So, you can find me on Instagram. I'm Isabella Badass. You can also listen to my podcast, which Rachel will be on soon because we got to finish this conversation. Cold Brew and Confidence is the name of my podcast. You can also find me on Facebook. I am Isabella Marie on Facebook. And in person, you can get a matcha from me at Matcha Magic in Bellevue.
Hey. And that's in Washington.
That's in Washington. So that would be on the east side. Come to the east side. I'll validate your parking, babe. Come get a matcha.
I love that. Okay, well, thank you so much again for being here. And I just love this is just so like life-giving to me. And it feels so good to like just talk with good people and like talk about good shit. So thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you for having me. I love you so much, and I will talk to you very soon.
Yes, I love you too. Bye.
Bye.